Caitlin Clark didn't just attend Milan Fashion Week, she claimed it. When Caitlin Clark stepped into the Prada Fall/Winter 2026 show and took a front-row seat at Prada inside Fondazione Prada, it wasn't some cute crossover moment where a basketball player dabbles in fashion. It was a power shift playing out in real time. The cameras weren't politely acknowledging her presence, they were hunting her. The headlines didn't politely mention her, they revolved around her. And the seating chart? That was the loudest statement of all. Prada doesn't fill a front row. Prada curates influence. Every seat is strategy. Every placement is intention. And Clark wasn't tucked away on the end as a novelty athlete invite. She was positioned in the center of gravity, photographed from every angle, shoulder to shoulder with global icons like Carey Mulligan, Letitia Wright, Charli D'Amelio, and Mark Zuckerberg. That is not accidental proximity. That is branding warfare. That is Prada announcing to the global market that Clark is no longer just the face of a league, she is the face of a movement. And the timing couldn't be louder. Forbes had already ranked her the fourth most powerful woman in sports, #1 if you remove team owners from the equation. Sportico named her the highest paid player in the WNBA. Not rookie. Not guard. Player. Period. And then Prada elevates her into fashion's most sacred real estate. That's not synergy. That's dominance. Clark walked into Milan not as a guest, but as leverage. Her endorsement portfolio, anchored by Nike, Gatorade, Wilson Sporting Goods, and State Farm, is already reshaping the economics of women's sports. Nike's reported $28 million, 8-year investment isn't a hopeful experiment. It's a declaration that they see her as infrastructure. Wilson giving her a signature line, the first female athlete to receive that level of treatment from them since Michael Jordan, isn't a coincidence. That's historical positioning. Gatorade breaking internal records to secure her? That's data-backed confidence. State Farm making her their first female athlete endorser in over a century of operation? That's legacy-level trust. Brands do not gamble at this scale. They track engagement, conversion rates, merchandise velocity, cross-demographic pull. And every metric keeps pointing to the same conclusion: Clark moves culture and product at the same time. That's rare. That's billion-dollar rare. And Milan was proof that her influence now transcends hardwood boundaries. She wore Prada to the 2024 WNBA draft, the first time the house had ever dressed a draft prospect, and that moment quietly planted a flag. Milan was the full harvest. Dressed in a striped beige cropped polo, cream trousers, dark brown trench, chocolate kitten heels, gold hoops, and that black leather bag, sporty, surgical, effortless, she didn't look like an athlete visiting fashion. She looked like fashion adjusting to an athlete. And then came the visual that set the internet on fire: Clark seated beside Eileen Gu. That wasn't random adjacency. That was global alignment. Gu, the 6-time Olympic medalist who captured gold in big air and halfpipe and silver in slopestyle at the 2022 Winter Olympics, then doubled down with another medal haul at the 2026 Winter Olympics, is not an accessory personality. She is a multinational brand engine who balances Stanford academics with partnerships from Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci, Victoria's Secret, and Tiffany & Company. She competes globally and markets globally. And Prada placed Clark directly beside her. Translation: Clark belongs in that tier. Not basketball tier. Global elite tier. Two athletes who dominate their sports and command fashion's highest rooms, captured in a single frame. Editors had to cover it. Sports media had to cover it. Culture pages had to cover it. That dual-lane attention is marketing gold. It means Clark isn't boxed into a niche. She's operating at a frequency that merges industries. Meanwhile, the contrast unfolding thousands of miles away could not have been sharper. While Clark sat front row under flashing cameras, Angel Reese was trending for very different reasons. Her signature shoe with Reebok, launched with hype and heavy promotion, reportedly began surfacing in clearance rotations without the sellout surge brands pray for. Attention without transaction. Noise without conversion. And in the endorsement world, that's the harshest scoreboard of all. Brands can tolerate controversy. They cannot tolerate stagnation. Clark's trajectory is built on consistency, production, and public composure. She uplifts teammates like Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham without theatrics. She handles injuries transparently. She speaks without volatility. That predictability is corporate oxygen. It lowers risk while maximizing upside. And Nike's expansion of her brand into crossover visibility, including rumored golf integrations and potential long-form streaming storytelling, signals they see her as more than a seasonal spike. They see her as architecture. The WNBA's new $2.2 billion, 11-year media rights deal didn't materialize in a vacuum. Ratings surged. Arenas filled. Merchandise moved. The Clark effect isn't a slogan, it's a balance sheet reality. When one athlete lifts ticket demand, TV contracts, and franchise valuations simultaneously, that's not hype. That's leverage. And Milan was leverage visualized. The message was unmistakable. Women's basketball is no longer asking for space at the table. It's redesigning the room. And Clark, poised and unbothered in Prada, is at the center of that redesign. Now zoom out and look at the battlefield from altitude. This isn't just about one fashion show or one endorsement cycle. It's about trajectory versus turbulence. Clark's rookie season reportedly generated over $8 million in endorsements alone, a figure that would have sounded fictional for a first-year WNBA player a decade ago. Forbes described it as a shift in how female athletes are valued. That phrasing almost understates the revolution. Because what's unfolding is a recalibration of market perception. Nike isn't testing her. They're building around her. Signature shoes are sacred territory within that company, territory historically occupied by titans like Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Durant. When Nike places Clark in even a distant echo of that lineage, it signals belief in generational impact, and they're investing before the 2026 season even tips. That's forward-facing strategy. That's betting on acceleration. Contrast that with the tightening narrative around Reese. The 2023 NCAA championship clash, LSU versus Iowa, ignited a rivalry that electrified audiences, punctuated by Reese's now infamous "You can't see me" gesture borrowed from John Cena. It went viral. It fueled debates. It amplified personalities. But virality has a short half-life if it isn't reinforced by scalable product demand. Tweets like "I can play golf too" in response to Clark's LPGA visibility might generate engagement. But engagement without equity doesn't sustain brand growth. Sponsors watch behavioral patterns as closely as stat lines. They assess tone, resilience, adaptability. They compare how audiences respond emotionally and financially. And the signals right now are asymmetrical. Reebok entered its partnership with ambition, seeking resurgence in basketball relevance. Yet when inventory lingers and marketing cadence softens, it implies recalibration. Companies rarely announce retreats, they simply redirect resources. Meanwhile, Clark's partnerships intensify. State Farm's century-long history without a female athlete ambassador makes her inclusion historic. Wilson aligning her name in proximity to Jordan is symbolic capital. Gatorade's record-setting investment is quantitative proof. These are not sentimental gestures toward representation. They are ROI-driven commitments. And Milan amplified that divergence into a global tableau. Clark and Gu side by side represented not rivalry but reinforcement, two case studies in how elite performance paired with cross-industry fluency builds empires. Yes,